Michael, what's your view on the legal position here?
I think that it's unconstitutional because, first of all, Congress has the authority to declare war. I think it's against...
He did say he's not intending to declare war at this point.
Well, but my perspective here is that there's an easy win for him, which is a bipartisan win. If he simply went to Congress, which he has not done, and met with the four corners, which is the Speaker, the Majority Leader in each House, and the Minority Leader, and said, this is my plan, he could surely get Democratic votes and Republican votes and say, let's go about this together. I think there would be a bipartisan conversation about attacking the fentanyl crisis and attacking drugs coming up from Southern America. I don't think you can just kill people without a due process, and I think that's what's happening here. And I'll say one more thing. I think it's problematic because some of these people may have intelligence or information that we could actually use to attack larger networks, but we'll never get that because we're just killing them.
The president actually said himself today, and I wrote down the quote, he said, I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Where does a statement like that potentially begin and end?
Well, it's a violation of international law. I mean, you can't, and the president of Colombia addressed this, you can't just kill citizens of another country in or near their country just because you choose to do so. Again, I think if you're going to do that, it should be a conversation with Congress at minimum and with our allies in the region as well to make sure we're doing this in an intelligent way.
And Amanda, when Michael's talking about there being bipartisan support for this, maybe it's the only thing in this town there might be bipartisan support on at the moment. Why is the president not doing that, not reaching out to the Democrats to do something together on this?
Well, I wish there could be bipartisan support. I just really wonder what there is bipartisan support for, because it seems like the Democrats don't want to give President Trump a win on anything. Look back to what happened to Senator Schumer when he agreed to open up the government last March. I mean, he basically was told, you're going to be primaried for that. How dare you give this president a victory? So I don't agree that Democrats are willing to be bipartisan on this or really anything else right now with President Trump.
Do you want to reply to that, Michael?
No, they would be. I've had this conversation with friends in leadership. They are concerned about drugs coming up from the South, and they're concerned about not violating international law, which is what Donald Trump is doing. So there is a real appetite, and there are wins, because if you look at the history of his presidency, certainly during his first term, Democrats worked with him on criminal justice reform, actually was part of that effort with Leader Jeffries. There is an appetite there. And so I think, look, we're getting to this very bad divisive place in this country. There are significant issues we have to address together, and this is one of them. I would also say the $38 trillion national debt is another.
And could those conversations happen, though, while the government is still shut down?
Yes, it could. I mean, Leader Jeffries is here, Leader Schumer is here. They're waiting to meet with the president or the Speaker or the Senate Majority Leader, any of them. That has not happened. I would also say that Greg Meeks, who is a top Democrat on House Foreign Affairs, today again wrote a letter to his counterpart, the chairman of the committee, and asked for more information about these strikes around South America and the Caribbean. That information has not come forth. There's been no briefings, classified or non-classified.
Amanda, do you think there could be movement on this?
I don't think that the Republicans are willing to talk about anything until we have the government open. And that is something that the Speaker Johnson, has said very clearly. Until we have the government open, we're not discussing anything. Now, we will agree and commit to, priorities the Democrats may have. Of course, that's been health care all along. It could be other things. But they haven't come forth to say, let's open the government and then we can discuss other things. They haven't done that. So they're not willing to get the government open. This is a clean, continuing resolution that seems very easy to pass, and they're not willing to do it. So the Republicans are saying, well, we're not willing to talk about anything either. If you're not willing to open up the government, that's priority number one right now.
Michael, I'll just let you reply to that, because then I want to move on to another topic.
The CR is the status quo. That's saying what existed previously should continue. That for Democrats doesn't work, because what you have from the reconciliation bill that was passed, for instance, you've got hundreds of millions of dollars in Medicaid cuts coming out of that, right? You have tens of millions of Americans losing health care just from that, not even from the end of these subsidies for Obamacare. And so what we have is the most vulnerable people in this country that are losing health care. I'd also say this, one of the most powerful powers Congress has is authorization of funds, right, and appropriations. Donald Trump rescinded some appropriations, and that is problematic for some Democrats as well. Democrats are saying, why would we reopen the government and do what you've already done? which we don't like. If Congress is going to move forward and say you can rescind funds that we put forth, it's irrelevant in terms of what it has put forth in the Constitution.
There's a trust issue there. Just when you're talking about funds, we heard President Trump today talk about funds of $350 million that he has raised for this new fancy ballroom at the White House. The White House putting out a list of some of the companies that have donated to this. They've raised more than the President says what they need. 300, I think, was the budget. They're at 350. He's going to put in some money himself, but he hasn't said how much. Some of those names are some of the biggest tech companies in this country, Microsoft, Google, among them. Are there any concerns there, Amanda, about what those tech companies are paying for and what they might expect in return?
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you read the list because it is tech companies, but it's also other companies and families that are paying to see the White House be improved. And so this is not somewhere where President Trump's going to live for the rest of his life. This is something that he passes down. And so I think that the way that it should be viewed is what is President Trump putting in, which he said he will do whatever it takes to finish and complete the project. But he's also taking from lawsuits that has been settlements that he has had. For example, YouTube, I believe that's $22 million that will go towards this. And others who have an interest in seeing the beautification and expansion of the White House. One of the things that the president has said is that the room that's being expanded isn't large enough to really be able to invite as many people as we'd like to do. That's really not anything for President Trump. That's to invite other Americans whose house this also is to be able to come enjoy the White House. So, we had in the 90s with Bill Clinton, he was renting out hotel rooms like in the White House as if it was a hotel. And of course, people said, people were upset about that then. But the point is that this, to me, does not even come close to the level of what President Clinton was doing, renting rooms in the White House.
Michael?
We've never seen this level of corruption in American history. There are two big problems. The White House is not the president's house. It's the people's house. There's a process for making modifications to the White House. He skipped over that entire process. That is a problem. Second thing is, look, I run a business that provides political intelligence to CEOs. I've talked to them multiple times about their engagement with the president, and they feel as though this is a shakedown in terms of all of these things, be it the fines, be it donations to this. They don't think this is the way business is being conducted, and it frankly isn't. This is sort of Banana Republic stuff, and I think it's borne out by the results in terms of where we are as a country. The dollar's down 11% this year. That is a reflection of the rule of law, in part, in this country that is in some way collapsed. It's never been the case that the president can weaponize the entire Justice Department and the entire government against one person or one organization because he has personal issues with that person. We're seeing that over and over and over again, and we've just normalized it.
Well, he does claim that it was weaponized against him under the Biden administration.
He says things all the time that just aren't true, and they're borne out to not be factual. And so, this is not even a partisan conversation from my view. This is just someone who's an American that has a concern about the presidency that has made Congress irrelevant, which he has in some way, and he's just operating like a king, which is problematic. Again, this shouldn't be partisan. If this were a Democrat behaving this way, I think I'd say the same thing. I've never seen this level of corruption.
Okay, well, we'll have to carry on that conversation on another day because we're out of time for now. Michael Hardaway and Amanda Mackey, thanks to you both for coming in to us. Thank you.